The gavel slammed down like a gunshot in the marbled bowels of the Manhattan Supreme Court, echoing off the oak panels and straight into my chest. Your Honor, I withdraw my representation of the defendant, I announced, my voice steady as steel but cracking like thin ice underfoot, the words tasting like ash on my tongue. In that frozen second, every eye in the room, reporters, jurors, my ex-lover staring daggers from the defense table, turned to me, Seth Harlan, the golden boy of corporate law, as I torched the one bridge I'd sworn to die on. Keith's laugh was a ghost in my ear, the kind that lingered from 3 years ago when we'd stumble out of dive bars in the village, his hand warm in mine under the neon haze. You think you can just walk away from this? He'd whisper, pulling me into shadowed alleys where the city's pulse matched our own frantic rhythm. But that was before the merger, before the boardroom betrayals, before I chose the firm's corner office over the cramped Brooklyn walk-up we'd called home. Now, here I was, 32 and unraveling, handing him over to the wolves I'd once tamed for love. The rain hit the courthouse steps like a verdict I couldn't appeal, soaking through my Armani suit as flashbulbs popped like accusations. Mr. Harlan, why the sudden exit? Bad blood with your client? A Post reporter shouted, her mic thrusting like a bayonet. I shoved past, the weight of Keith's gaze burning my back, those hazel eyes that used to undress me now stripped bare with fury. Bad blood? Try a hemorrhage. I'd built my career on clean cuts, surgical precision in boardrooms where fortunes flipped like coins. But Keith? He was the mess I couldn't litigate away, the variable that derailed every equation. By the time I slammed the door to my Upper East Side loft, the skyline outside my floor-to-ceiling windows mocked me with its indifferent glitter. I poured a scotch, neat, the amber liquid sloshing like the regrets pooling in my gut. The merger was done, $2.8 billion sealed, my name etched in the Partners Hall of Fame, but victory tasted like cardboard. Keith's face flickered in my mind. That crooked smile after we'd won our first case together, pro bono for some kid facing deportation. Champagne fizzing on the fire escape as he traced the scar on my jaw from a bar fight in law school. You're my white knight, Seth, he'd said, lips brushing mine. White knight. What a joke. I'd pawned that armor for a silk tie and a penthouse view. The phone buzzed. My assistant, Elena, all efficiency. Sir, the press is circling. You want me to spin it as a conflict of interest. Spin it. That's what we did in this town. Twist truths until they fit the narrative. No, I muttered, voice hoarse. Just kill the notifications. I scrolled anyway, thumb trembling over the alert. Harlan dumps client in $2.8 billion fraud trial. Lover's quarrel or career suicide? Lover's quarrel. They dug it up. The tabloids always did, sniffing out scandal like blood in the Hudson. Keith and I had been careful once. Discreet dates in hidden speakeasies, code names for hotel check-ins. But love like ours didn't stay buried in a city that thrived on exposure. I collapsed onto the leather sectional, the city humming below like a beast sated on my bones. 3 years. That's how long we'd clawed our way from associates at the same firm to this, me, the rising star, him, the idealistic firebrand who'd dared to whistleblow on the very merger that crowned me. He'd found the emails first, backroom deals with offshore shells, bribes disguised as consulting fees. We report it, Seth. Together, his voice had been fierce in our kitchen, takeout containers scattered like evidence. I nodded then, heart swelling with that reckless pride he always ignited. But the next morning, over coffee black as my doubts, the partners called me in. Loyalty, Harlan. It's not just a word. Loyalty to what? The firm that paid my student loans. The legacy my dead father never believed in? Or to Keith, who dreamed of justice in a world rigged for the rich, a chosen wrong. Or right, depending on the lie I told myself that night. I leaked just enough to the board to look clean, anonymous tip, no names, and watched as Keith got painted the villain, the disgruntled employee with an axe to grind. He confronted me in the firm's atrium, rain lashing the glass like tears we wouldn't shed. Was it you? Simple question. Loaded chamber. I lied with a shrug. What are you talking about? His face crumpled. That beautiful, stubborn face. And he walked away without another word. 6 months later, the merger sailed through, and I got the promotion. Keith, sidelined to some podunk public defender gig in Queens, fighting traffic tickets while I dined with senators. The scotch burned going down, but not as much as the memory of our last night before the fracture. We'd driven out to the Hamptons, top down on his beat-up Mustang, wind whipping through our hair as Springsteen blasted from the speakers. Born to run, ironic now. We made love on the beach under a blanket of stars, his body fitting mine like a key to a lock I'd forgotten I had. Promise me, he'd murmured against my neck. No matter what, we fight clean. Promised, sealing it with a kiss that tasted like salt and forever. Lies. All of it. A knock shattered the haze, sharp, insistent. I froze, glass midway to my lips. No one came unannounced. My doorman vetted like a Secret Service detail. Peering through the peephole, my stomach dropped. Keith, drenched, jaw set like granite, a manila envelope clutched in his fist. Open the door, Seth, or I'll scream it to your fancy neighbors. His voice was low thunder, vibrating through the steel. I hesitated, pulse hammering, then twisted the lock. He burst in like a storm front, water pooling on my hardwood, eyes wild with the fury I'd earned. You think you can just bail on me in open court? He thrust the envelope at my chest, papers spilling like accusations, transcripts, depositions, the smoking gun I'd buried. I know what you did. The tip-off? It was you. You sold me out to save your ass. The words landed like hooks in my flesh, reeling me back to that atrium, to the lie I'd armored myself with. I snatched the papers, scanning the highlighted lines. My signature, buried in metadata, the digital fingerprint I'd overlooked. Keith, listen. But he cut me off, stepping close enough that I could smell the rain on his skin, the faint cedar of his cologne that still haunted my sheets. No. You listen. I loved you. Through the late nights, the depositions, the way you'd whisper case law in bed like poetry. I thought we were building something real. His voice cracked, and there it was, the raw edge that undid me, the vulnerability he'd only ever shown in the dark. My hand twitched, aching to touch him, to trace the line of his jaw like I used to, but I held back. Touching would mean admitting it all. It wasn't like that. I lied again, softer this time, the scotch loosening my resolve. The firm. They had leverage. Your career was tanking anyway. Cruel twist, but true enough to sting him. His laugh was bitter, echoing the ghost from the courtroom. My career? This was about us, Seth. About trust. You chose them over me. He was right, of course. In the dead of night, when the city's roar faded to a whisper, I'd replay it. The moment I hit send on that email, rationalizing it as protection for both of us. But protection from what? The truth that our worlds were colliding, that his fire would burn my ladder to ash. He paced the room, a caged panther in my sterile palace, knocking over a crystal decanter that shattered like our vows. And now, you drop me like dead weight in front of God and the New York Times. What's the play, Harlan? Afraid I'd drag you down with me? Drag me down. If only he knew how high I'd climb just to fall for him again. I set the glass down, stepping into his path, close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. I did it to end it clean. For you. The evidence was airtight. You'd lose everything. Bullshit. His eyes locked on mine, hazel storm clouds brewing with the pain I'd sown. You did it for you. The promotion, the headlines. Seth Harlan, savior of the merger. But guess what? I didn't need saving. I needed you. The admission hung between us, heavy as the rain battering the windows. Needed. Past tense. But the way his breath hitched said otherwise. My resolve cracked, fingers brushing his wrist, pulse racing under my thumb, familiar as my own. Keith, I whispered, the name a plea, pulling him closer until our foreheads touched, the world narrowing to this us, broken but breathing the same air. He didn't pull away. Instead, his hand fisted in my shirt, yanking me into a kiss that was all teeth and desperation, tasting of rain and rage and the love we'd tried to kill. It was war and surrender, his body pressing mine against the wall, hands roaming like they remembered every scar, every secret. I groaned into his mouth, surrendering to the flood, 3 years of denial crashing over us in waves. I hate you, he gasped between kisses, but his fingers dug in like anchors, refusing to let go. We stumbled to the bedroom, shedding clothes like sins, the city lights painting our skin in gold and shadow. It was frantic, reverent, his mouth on my throat, my hands mapping the planes of his back. The tattoo of a compass rose I'd inked with him one drunken night in Soho, pointing true north. Why? He demanded later, tangled in sheets, my head on his chest as his heartbeat steadied. Why betray me? I traced the ink, voice muffled against his skin. Because I was scared. Of losing you to the fight. Of the firm breaking us. Truth, finally, bitter as bile. He stiffened, then sighed, fingers combing my hair. You already did. Dawn crept in like a thief, gray light filtering through blinds, illuminating the wreckage, paper strewn, decanter shards glittering like fallen stars. Keith dressed in silence, the intimacy of night evaporating under morning's glare. This changes nothing, he said, zipping his hoodie, eyes avoiding mine. The trial goes on. Without you, I sat up, sheets pooling at my waist, throat tight. Keith, wait. We can fix this. Talk to the judge. Recuse. He whirled, fire reigniting. Fix it? You think one night erases the knife in my back? No, didn't. But as he stormed out, door slamming like that gavel, I knew it was a start, a crack in the armor. The merger's glow had faded. Without him, it was just smoke. I grabbed my phone, dialing Elena. Get me the original files. All of them. Time to unspin the web. For once, loyalty wouldn't be to the firm, or the lie, but to the man who'd made me believe in something bigger than billable hours. The subway rattled beneath Manhattan like the undercurrent of my unraveling life, each jolt a reminder that New York never slept, but I sure as hell wished it would. 2 days post-courtroom implosion, and the headlines still chased me. Harlan's heartbreak exit, Gay power couples merger meltdown. Classy, as always. I ducked into a coffee shop in Midtown, the kind with exposed brick and overpriced lattes, hood up against the prying eyes. Keith's apartment was a 20-minute walk from here. Our old spot in Brooklyn felt like another lifetime, but I needed neutral ground. Neutral. What a myth. He'd texted at 3 a.m., the bean counter. Noon. Don't be late. Cryptic as his depositions, but the subtext screamed truce, or trap. I arrived early, nursing a black coffee that scalded my tongue, scanning the door like a suspect. When he walked in, wind-blown and weary in a threadbare peacoat, my heart did that stupid flip it always did. God, he looked good, unpolished, real, the anti-me. He slid into the booth. No hello, just a folder slapped on the table. Your confession, he said flatly, hazel eyes guarded behind wire rims. Sign it, and maybe I don't bury you with the rest. Confession. The word twisted in my gut, evoking dimly lit rooms and whispered sins. I flipped it open. Affidavits, timestamps, the digital trail leading straight to my inbox. You hacked me, no accusation, just awe. He'd always been the tech whiz, back when we'd code late-night briefs on his laptop, feet tangled under the desk. He shrugged, sipping his Americano. Perks of public defender life. We get creative. Silence stretched, thick as the steam between us, until I couldn't take it. Last night. It meant something, right? His jaw ticked, that telltale sign of war within. Don't, Seth. This isn't a rom-com. You gutted me for a corner office. Fair. But the way his fingers drummed the table, echoing our old Morse code for I love you, betrayed him. I leaned in, voice low. I know. And I'm gutting the firm to fix it. Elena's pulling strings. We can amend the merger docs. Expose the bribes without implicating you. His laugh was sharp, drawing glances from the baristas. We? There's no we. You made sure of that. The bell above the door jingled, and in walked Marcus Hale, senior partner, Silver Fox with a shark smile, the man who'd handed me the poison chalice. Harlan, he boomed, clapping my shoulder like we were frat brothers. Heard you had a rough one. Buy you a refill. His eyes flicked to Keith, calculation sharpening. And who's this? The X factor in our little drama. Keith's face hardened, but I stood, blocking the view. Not now, Marcus, he chuckled, undeterred. Come on, kid. Loyalty's a two-way street. Drop the noble crap. The board's offering you lead on the Tokyo expansion. Tokyo. The dream gig. Escape to cherry blossoms and clean slates. Keith's gaze bored into me, waiting for the choice. I met Marcus's eyes, the ones that had mentored me from intern to rainmaker. Tell the board I'm out. Effective immediately. The words hung. Seismic. Marcus's smile faltered. You serious? For him. He jerked his chin at Keith, disdain dripping. That bleeding heart hack? You'll be clerking divorce papers by Christmas. Maybe, I shrugged, freedom tasting like the bitter dregs in my cup. Better than selling my soul, Marcus scoffed, tossing a 20 on the table. Your funeral, Harlan. Call when you crawl back. He sauntered out, leaving Frost in his wake. Keith stared, folder forgotten. You just quit. For real, not a question, but I nodded. For real. Now sign your damn confession, or burn it. Your call. He didn't sign. Instead, he closed the folder, sliding it aside. Why now? Vulnerability again, the crack widening. I reached across, lacing our fingers, calluses from his pro bono files rough against my manicured palms. Because I woke up. Without you, the view's just empty glass. Corny, straight out of a Nora Ephron script. But his thumb stroked mine, a silent maybe. We talked then, really talked over refills that went cold, dissecting the merger like autopsy scars. How I justified the betrayal as strategy. How he'd rebuilt in the ruins, taking cases for immigrants and addicts, finding purpose in the margins. By the time we hit the street, the sun cracked the clouds, gilding the chaos of taxis and tourists. Walk with me? He asked, tentative, like testing thin ice. Hell yes. We wandered Chelsea, past galleries with abstracts that screamed our mess, stopping at a pier where the Hudson slapped the pilings. He leaned on the rail, wind tousling his hair. I kept the compass tattoo, he said softly, rolling up his sleeve. The ink gleamed, needle sharp. Even when I hated you, my chest ached, hand covering his. Good. Because I'm pointing north now. We kissed there, slow and sure, the city fading to a hum. Not the frantic collision of my loft, but a promise tentative, textured. That night, he came back to Brooklyn, to our old walk-up with the leaky faucet and fire escape view. No silk sheets, just thrift store quilts and take-out tie, laughing over case files like old times. Making love was rediscovery. His gasps in the dark, my name a litany on his lips. Stay, he murmured after, body heavy on mine. No more running, promised, meaning it this time, as the skyline twinkled like absolution. But New York doesn't do easy. A week later, the subpoena hit, Marcus, retaliating, dragging me into a countersuit for breach of fiduciary duty. The headlines exploded. Ex-lovers in legal lockdown, Harlan vs. Hale in gay scandal of the year. Keith paced our kitchen, phone glued to his ear with his own counsel. This is insane, he fumed, hanging up. They're painting you as the jilted boyfriend spilling trade secrets. Jilted. The irony burned. I pulled him close, chin on his shoulder. Let them. Truth's our best defense. The deposition was a circus. Fluorescents buzzing like angry hornets. Marcus's lawyers circling like vultures. Mr. Harlan. One sneered, a Botoxed brunette with a PowerPoint of my erratic behavior, slides flashing emails, late-night texts to Keith marked inappropriate fraternization. Isn't it true you leaked sensitive merger docs out of spite? A lover's spat gone corporate. The room spun. Keith's absence a void. He'd recused. Too conflicted. I straightened, channeling every courtroom win. No. I leaked because it was right. The bribes, the shells your clients profited on lies. I chose truth over tenure. Gasps rippled. Marcus's face purpled behind the glass. Objection, his counsel barked. But the judge, a grizzled queer icon from the Stonewall era, waved it off. Overruled. Proceed, Mr. Harlan. I did, spilling it all, the pressure, the promise broken, the love that pulled me back. By recess, whispers filled the hall. Harlan's turning state's evidence. Elena texted, boards panicking. Want a deal? I deleted it. No deals. Just justice. Keith waited outside, vending machine coffee in hand, grin crooked. Heard you slayed. I took the cup, our fingers brushing. We slayed. That night, we celebrated not with scotch, but cheap Merlot on the fire escape, toasting to fractures mended. To us, he said, clinking glasses, eyes soft in the neon glow. The word bloomed, warm and wild. Yet betrayal's shadow lingered. A month in, anonymous tips flooded Keith's inbox, threats, doxing his clients, whispers of disbarment. It's hail, he growled over breakfast, scrolling death threats disguised as concerned citizen emails. Paranoia crept, locks changed, blinds drawn. I blamed myself, the cost of my climb dragging him under. We run, I proposed one sleepless night, his head on my lap. California. Start over. He sat up, fire in his eyes. Run? That's your play? No. We fight. Together. Together. The word anchored me. We countersued. Pro bono allies rallying. ACLU vets. Queer bar legends. The trial ballooned. Media frenzy peaking at a presser where Keith spoke. Voice steady. This isn't about scandal. It's about accountability. In boardrooms and bedrooms, truth matters. I stood beside him, hand on his back, the touch public, proud. Flashes popped. Cheers erupted from activists chanting love wins. Love did, in flickers. The climax hit on the Brooklyn Bridge. That rain-lashed dusk I'd replay in nightmares. Marcus had cornered us post-hearing, his Bentley idling like a predator. Last chance. Harlan. Drop it, or I bury you both. Threats veiled in legalese. But the glint in his eye said otherwise, hired muscle, shadows lurking. Keith shoved me behind him. Foolish night. Back off. Old man. A scuffle. A shove. Marcus's goon lunging. Fist connecting with Keith's jaw. Blood bloomed. Crimson on concrete. And time fractured. I roared, tackling the thug. Fists flying in a blur of rage and rain. Get off him. Punches landed. Mine cracking ribs. His glancing my temple, until sirens wailed. Uniforms swarming. Keith slumped against the cable. Lips split, but eyes fierce. You okay? I gasped, cradling his face. Rain mingling with blood and tears. Yeah, he rasped, gripping my shirt. We got this. In that chaos, cameras captured it all. The assault, the solidarity, the kiss I pressed to his forehead as medics arrived. Bridge brawl, merger moguls thugs target gay couple. The tide turned overnight. Marcus folded days later, plea deal swallowing his empire. The merger unraveled. Bribes exposed in congressional hearings. My testimony gold. But vindication tasted hollow without Keith's hand in mine. We won, disbarment dodged, reputations rehabbed. But the scars? They stayed. Tender reminders. 6 months on, we stood on that same bridge. No rain, just autumn crisp biting the air. Keith's arm around my waist. City sprawling below like a canvas repainted. What now? He asked, breath fogging the dusk. I turned, cupping his face, scar faint on his jaw, echo of mine. Now, we build. Real this time. No secrets. His smile broke, slow and sunlit. Promise. I kissed him, deep and deliberate, the skyline witnessing. Promise. In the end, it wasn't the merger or the malice that defined us, but the mending, the quiet nights scripting briefs for the voiceless, Mornings tangled in sheets that smelled of cedar and coffee. New York chewed us up, spat us out stronger. Two men who'd loved fierce and learned forgiveness isn't forgetting, but choosing again. Every damn day. We moved west eventually, not running, but reaching. A firm in San Francisco, hybrid of corporate grit and social fire, Keith heading equity, me on ethics oversight. The compass tattoos itched sometimes, pointing not north, but home, each other. And in the quiet hours, when the fog rolled in off the bay, I'd whisper to the dark, "I need you," remembering the lawyer I'd once loved to death. Turns out, death was just the door to deeper life. The salt air of the Pacific clung to our skin like a lover's regret as we unpacked boxes in our Bernal Heights row house, the kind with gingerbread trim and a view of fog-shrouded hills that whispered second chances. Keith hefted a crate of law texts, muscles straining under his faded Arcade Fire tee, the one I'd bought him at their Bowery show, back when concerts meant stolen kisses in mosh pits, not depositions at dawn. "You kept these?" he asked, thumbing a dog-eared copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, the inscription in my scrawl, "For my Atticus, fighting the good fight. Love." His voice held that mix of wonder and wariness, like touching a bruise to see if it still throbbed. I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed to hide the tremor in my hands. Couldn't burn them. Felt like arson on our history, truth, laced with the ache of what-ifs. 6 months since the bridge, since Marcus's empire crumbled like wet sand, and we'd traded Manhattan's razor edges for this softer coast. But history didn't pack neat. It leaked from corners, staining fresh starts. He set the book down, crossing the creaky floorboards to pull me close, his stubble rasping my cheek. "Good. Because I'm not done writing our sequel." His lips brushed mine, tentative, then sure, a spark reigniting the fuse. That night, we christened the place with pizza from the corner joint, grease-spotting case files spread on the kitchen table like battle maps. Our new gig at Reyes and Associates was a dream engineered, a boutique firm blending profit with purpose, defending tech whistleblowers by day, pro bono for queer youth by night. Keith dove in headfirst, his passion a beacon drawing clients like moths, trans kids fighting custody battles, immigrants dodging ICE in Silicon shadows. Me, I played the strategist, the ex-shark turned shepherd, negotiating settlements that stuck. "You're good at this redemption arc," he'd tease over late-night ramen, feet hooked under the table. Almost convincing, almost. The doubts crept in whispers. Voicemails from old colleagues. "Seth, come back, Tokyo's waiting," laced with pity for my downgrade, or the mirror's lie, reflecting a man who'd bartered love for ledgers, wondering if forgiveness was finite. Keith sensed it, always did, pulling me from the spiral with a hand on my neck, grounding me in the now. "Hey," he'd say, eyes locking like puzzle pieces. "We're here. That's the win." And damn if it didn't feel like one, waking to his coffee breath and the sun slanting through eucalyptus leaves. But San Francisco had its own tempests. Our first big case landed like a rogue wave. A startup CEO, Alex Rivera, out and proud, accused of embezzling from his own green tech firm to fund an LGBTQ+ shelter. The board, straights in chinos, smelling blood, sued for fraud, painting him as a reckless idealist bleeding profits for personal crusades. Keith took point, fire in his veins. I handled the backroom deals, wheeling with VCs who'd once wined me in the Hamptons. "This is us," he said pre-trial, adjusting my tie in the hallway mirror. Proving love doesn't bankrupt the bottom line. The courtroom in the Civic Center was a far cry from Manhattan's Pomp Airy, with redwoods visible through clerestory windows, but the stakes hummed electric. Alex testified, voice steady. The shelter wasn't a line item, it was legacy. Kids like me, kicked out at 16, deserved a roof that didn't leak lies. Keith cross-examined the CFO, dismantling spreadsheets with surgical jabs. So, the diverted funds built a community center serving 200 families annually? Sounds like ROI to me. Juries ate it up, diverse, woke, nodding along to his rhythm. I watched from counsel table, pride swelling like tide. But a shadow flickered. My phone buzzed mid-recess. Unknown number. Harlan. Enjoy the charity circus? Your boy's next if you don't fold. Marcus? No. He'd slunk to Florida. Disgraced. But grudges bred copycats. I deleted it, chalking to paranoia, but Keith caught my pallor. What? Post-trial huddle in a taqueria. Salsa sharp as suspicion. I waved it off. Nothing. Spam. Liar's reflex. Old habits dying hard. We won. Of course, settlement with equity stake for the shelter. Headlines crowning Reyes the Rainbow Defenders. Alex hugged us both, tears streaking his beard. You saved more than my ass. Champagne at home. Bubbles fizzing like victory. Keith toasting. To underdogs and overnights. We tumbled to the rug. Laughter dissolving into moans. His body arching under mine. Familiar terrain. Every freckle a landmark. I love you, I gasped. The words raw, unprompted. He stilled, then smiled against my throat. Took you long enough to say it sober. Love. The L word we'd danced around since Brooklyn, too freighted with fractures. But in the afterglow, tangled and sated, fit warm, worn in like our favorite jeans. Mornings blurred into routine. Him brewing pour-over while I scanned briefs, kisses stolen over the sink. Weekends hiking Marin headlands, where cliffs dropped to sea like precipices we'd leaped. Remember the bridge? He'd ask. Wind whipping, hand firm in mine. Thought that was the end. I pull him close, ocean crashing below. Nah. Just intermission. Yet the texts persisted, escalating. Tell your fag partner to watch his back. Slurs like shrapnel, anonymous but pointed. I traced them to a burner, dead end, but sleep evaded, nightmares of fists and blood replaying. Keith noticed the shadows under my eyes, pressing over breakfast burritos. Talk to me, Seth, caved, showing the chain. His face darkened, not fear but fury. We report it. And beef up security. Practical, my rock. But as we filed the police report, his hand trembled in mine, a crack in the armor. The threat crystallized at the Pride Parade, rainbow flags snapping in the Castro breeze like defiant sails. We marched with the firm, floats blaring Gloria Gaynor, confetti raining joy. Keith waved a sign, justice for all colors, his laugh bright amid the throng. Then, a shove from the crowd's edge. A masked figure, burly in black, lunging with a bottle. Fucking traitors. Glass shattered at our feet. Shards flying like accusations. Chaos erupted, screams. Security swarming. But Keith shielded me, arm barring the path. Run, I yelled, but he held, staring down the assailant until cops cuffed him. In the aftermath, precinct fluorescence harsh as interrogation, the thug spilled, a disgruntled ex-associate of Marcus's, nursing grudge for a botched bonus. targeting the gay lawyers who ruined Hale. Petty venom, but potent. Keith's arm bruised purple, my pulse still jackhammering. "You okay?" we chorused, collapsing into each other on the bench. Laughter bubbled, hysterical. "Yeah. Just another Tuesday." But in the cab home, his head on my shoulder, he whispered, "I can't lose you to this shit." I kissed his temple, fierce. "You won't. We're bulletproof now." We weren't. Not really. The attack splashed, pride assault. Lawyers in merger scandal targeted, stirring old ghosts. Elena called, voice tight, "Seth, the firm's getting heat." Clients pulling back. Heat. The kind that singed bridges we just rebuilt. Keith overheard, jaw clenching. "Let them. We pivot. Pivot." His mantra, bending without breaking. We did, launching a podcast, Out of Order, Queer Justice Unfiltered, interviews with activists, raw stories of survival. Downloads surged, sponsors trickled, Patagonia, Ben and Jerry's, brands betting on authenticity. Fall deepened, leaves turning gold like alchemical grace, and we stole a weekend in Big Sur, Highway 1 curving like a lover's spine. The cabin perched on bluffs, waves thundering below, no signal to some inspectors. We hiked to McWay Falls, silver ribbon spilling to turquoise sea, and there, under cypress giants, Keith dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but a key. To the house. Ours. No leases, no escapes, simple, seismic. I pulled him up, kissing him salt-stung. Yes, 1,000 times, making love by candlelight, bodies sinking like tides. I traced his bruises fading to yellow. "You're my north," I murmured, echoing the tattoo. He smiled, sleepy. "And you're my storm, wild, but home." Dawn brought seals barking on rocks, promises sealed in the light. Back in the city, the podcast hit stride, guests like a trans senator spilling tea on Capitol fights. But mid-episode, glitch, our feed hacked, audio warped with slurs, deepfakes of us ranting hate. Panic spiked, hours lost, trust eroded. "It's him again," Keith fumed, tracing the IP to a VPN in the valley. We fortified, IT wizards from the firm scrubbing code, but the violation lingered, intimate as a grope in the dark. I confronted it head-on. Solo hike in the Presidio, fog muffling thoughts. Was this the cost? Love in the crosshairs. Every win a target? Keith found me at the Overlook, Golden Gate veiled in mist. "Seth," his voice pulled me back. "We don't quit because it's hard." Arms around me, solid. "We queer it up, make it louder, louder." Yes. Winter solstice brought snow to the hills, rare and reverent, blanketing our deck in hush. We hosted Firm Fam, Alex and his shelter crew tree-strung with LED cases, ornaments etched with verdicts won. Toasts to resilience, laughter echoing. Later, alone by the fire, Keith's head in my lap, fingers toying with mine. "Ever think we'd get here?" I stroked his hair, embers glowing. Every day. From the ashes. But ashes smolder. New Year's Eve. Countdown ticking in Times Square feeds. A knock parcel. Unmarked. Inside. Charred merger docs. Note scrawled, "Burn with hail." My blood iced. Keith's face ashen. Police again. But this, personal. We traced it to a P.O. box. Rented under a ghost name, Marcus's cousin. The final Fong. Arrest swift, closure slow. Spring bloomed defiant. Cherry blossoms carpeting streets like confetti from a wedding we'd yet to plan. The podcast rebounded. Episodes raw, ratings soaring. Clients returned, drawn to our grit. And us, stronger seams, love tempered like steel. One evening, pier at sunset, bridge spanning like a vow, Keith turned. Marry me, ring simple, platinum band engraved true north. Tears pricked. I nodded, pulling him into the blaze. Hell yes, the city cheered in silence, our horizon endless. In the years that followed, we built empires of equity. The firm expanded, shelters sprouted, our story scripted into law school lore. Betrayals faded to footnotes, but the bridge stayed scar and sacrament, reminding that love isn't absence of storm, but dancing in the rain. The gavel's echo had long faded, but its rhythm pulsed in our veins like a second heartbeat as we stood in the federal courthouse in San Francisco, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and fresh printed briefs. It was our wedding day, not in some Vegas chapel or Napa vineyard, but here, amid the robes and gavels, petitioning to overturn a ban on same-sex adoptions for a client who'd waited decades. Keith adjusted his cufflinks, silver anchors, engraved with our initials, his hazel eyes catching mine across the aisle of empty seats. Ready to make history, counselor, his grin was half-cocked, the one that said we've got this, even as butterflies rioted in my gut. Always, I replied, squeezing his hand under the table, the simple band on his finger a talisman against the tide. Married 3 months now, in a civil ceremony on that big Sur Bluff with seals as witnesses and Elena officiating in rainbow Birkenstocks. But this was the vow we'd whispered in darker hours. Justice not just for us, but the faceless, the forgotten. Our client, Maria, a leather-vested dyke in her 60s, partner lost to cancer, sat ramrod straight, clutching photos of orphaned foster kids. For them, she rasped, nodding at the bench. For them. The mantra that bound us tighter than any knot. The judge, a stern Latina with a scar like a lightning bolt across her cheek, peered over spectacles. Mr. Harlan, your argument. I rose, heart steadying to the cadence we'd rehearsed in our kitchen. Take out rappers as props. Your Honor, this ban isn't protection. It's punishment. Denying loving homes to children based on who tucks them in, that's not family values, it's fear codified. Keith followed. Seamless tag team. Stats on stable queer households. Testimonials from kids thriving in rainbow nests. The opposition droned, Bible thumpers in pinstripes, quoting Leviticus like legalese, but we were title, eroding their bluster with evidence. Empathy, the unassailable truth of our own scarred path. Recess hit like halftime. We huddled in the hall, Maria's hug bone-crushing. You too. Like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but with better suits. Laughter bubbled, Keith's hand warm on my lower back, grounding. Butch was the straight one, I quipped, earning his elbow. Details. Back in. The judge ruled. Ban struck. Adoptions greenlit. Cheers erupted. Activists in the gallery whooping. Maria sobbing into her flannel. Keith pulled me into a bear hug, whispering, "We did it. We." The sweetest verdict. Post-ruling. The Castro exploded in celebration. Bars spilling revelers. Drag queens on stilts tossing glitter like grace. We danced at midnight sun. Sweat slick under disco balls. His body pressed to mine in the crush. Familiar fire. stoked by victory. To more wins, he toasted with a shot of Patron, lime tart on his tongue when he kissed me. More wins. But as neon pulsed, a shadow slithered, my phone lit with a text from an old Manhattan number. Congrats on the fairy tale. Enjoy while it lasts. And signed, but the venom? Pure hail remnant. Pocketed it, unwilling to poison the night. Home by dawn. Bodies tangled in sheets that smelled of limes and lust. Keith stirred first, tracing my wedding band. Penny for him? His voice husky, morning light gilding his lashes. I rolled to face him, honesty a habit we'd honed. Ghosts. Marcus's echo. He nodded. No surprise we'd therapied this. Sessions with a queer shrink unpacking betrayal's baggage. Then we exorcise. Together, his kiss sealed it, slow burn to blaze, hands mapping scars like sacred text. Work swallowed summer, a class action against a valley giant for AI bias in hiring, sidelining queer coders. Keith led discovery, unearthing code like buried bones. I negotiated the settlement, $50 million funneled to diversity funds. Late nights blurred in our home office, takeout congealing as we debated tactics, feet entwined under the desk. You're ruthless, he'd murmur, admiration laced with heat, pulling me onto his lap for breaks that stretched hours. Ruthless. Once a curse, now reclaimed, fierce love, not cutthroat climb. But the texts escalated, morphing to calls, heavy breathing, slurred epithets, cocksucking sellouts, cut off before trace. Police shrugged, harassment overload, but Keith installed cams, his jaw set like flint. Not letting fear fence us in. Fence. The word evoked our early days. Manhattan's invisible walls, closeted dates, coded glances. No more. We leaned in, podcast episodes dissecting digital stalking, guests from cyberqueers sharing survival hacks. Listeners surged, our vulnerability virality. Fall brought harvest. The settlement wired, first checks cutting ribbons at coding camps for trans teens. Alex joined the board, his shelter now a network spanning coasts. You guys are legends, he said at the gala. Bowtie askew. Legends. I clinked glasses with Keith, his suit hugging like sin. Nah. Just stubborn. Stubborn love. The kind that outlasted scandals. Yet winter whispered warnings. Holiday party at the firm, eggnog spiked, trees twinkling, when Elena pulled me aside, face ashen. Seth. Anonymous email to the partners. Accusations your merger leak was insider sabotage. Not heroism. Sabotage. The old lie. Resurrected. My stomach nodded. Keith, sensing, peered like radar. What's up? Whispered in the coat room, coats muffling my confession. His eyes flashed steel. We counter. Full transparency. Release the full depot transcripts. Release. Exposure as armor. We did. Blog post dropping pre-dawn. From betrayal to breakthrough. Our unvarnished merger story. Raw. Redemptive. My mea culpa in pixels. Keith's forgiveness framed as fortitude. Backlash bit, trolls swarming feeds. Old colleagues demanding shade, but allies amplified. Op-eds in the Cron. Shares from RuPaul's book club. The firm stood firm. Partners toasting our bravery over brandy. Bravery. Keith's hand under the table. Squeezing. See? Louder winds. New Year's dawned crisp. Fog lifting to blue infinities. We escaped to Yosemite. Granite monoliths mirroring our metal. Half-dome loomed, cables glinting like challenges. We climbed, harnessed, breaths sinking in thin air. At the summit, wind howling triumph, Keith unfurled a banner. Harlan Vega, unbreakable. Vega, his middle name, the star I'd nicknamed him after our first stargaze. Tears froze on my cheeks. I kissed him, vast sky our chapel. Unbreakable, I echoed, hearts hammering in unison. Spring unfurled petitions. Prop 8 remnants challenged, our firm spearheading. Court days bled into nights of strategy, Keith's passion a pyre. This is legacy, he'd say, pacing our deck, city lights winking approval. Legacy. From corporate corpse to this, fighting for futures we'd nearly forfeited. But the stalker struck visceral. Our car keyed with slurs, fags burn, paint flaking like skin. Police dusted, but the violation clung, sleep shattered by creaks. Keith bolted doors double, but his eyes haunted, holding mine in the dark. I won't let them win, won't. The vow that vowed me. We traced it private eye, off books, to a bitter ex-clerk from Reyes, fired for embezzling, grudge festering into felony. Arrest at dawn. His confession a flood. Hale paid me to rattle you. Echoes. Endless. But closure clicked. Therapy unpacking the paranoia. Summer solstice. Solstice sun high. We hosted a vow renewal backyard. String lights. Queer choir belting at last. Vows exchanged anew. I choose you. Storms and all. Rings kissed. Cake smashed. Dances delirious. In the quiet after. Guests gone. Keith slow danced me under stars. Forever. His whisper. Hopeful. Eternity. I breathed. Meaning every constellation. Years layered like strata. Kids fostered. A boy with Keith's mischief. A girl with my skepticism. Family forged in filings and first steps. The firm franchised. Satellites in LA. Seattle. Our story syllabus in ethics courses. Betrayals? Footnotes. Fuel for fire. On our 10th bridge adversary. Brooklyn visit. Rain pattering cables. We stood where it shattered. From death to this, Keith mused. Arms around me. City eternal. This love. Luminous. Unyielding. The lawyer I'd loved to death? It saved me, pulling us both to life. The courtroom in Oakland smelled of stale coffee and desperation. The kind that seeped into your pores like secondhand smoke from the 90s trials we'd romanticized in law school. Our foster son, Jamie 11, all gangly limbs and guarded grins, sat in the gallery with Maria, our surrogate auntie, his sketchpad a shield against the proceedings. Keith and I flanked the petitioner, a trans man named Jordan, fighting for custody of his niece after her parents' overdose. The state argued instability, code for not cis enough, their lawyer a doughy suit with a mustache like a 70s cop show villain. Mr. Vega, he drawled, eyeing Keith's wedding band like evidence. Your lifestyle. How can you assure the court it's suitable for a child? Keith didn't flinch, leaning forward with that quiet thunder that won hearts and cases. My lifestyle? You mean my marriage to the man beside me, raising a son who thrives because we fight for family, not against it. The gallery murmured approval. Jamie's pencil scratched faster, capturing Keith's profile in heroic strokes. I jumped in. Voice measured. Precedent. Obergefell v. Hodges extends to parental rights. Deny Jordan. And you're legislating love. The judge, a non-binary NB with tattoos peeking from robes, nodded. scribbling notes. We won by noon, Jordan's sob echoing as we hugged, Jamie high-fiving like it was recess. Outside, under jacaranda blooms shedding purple rain, Jamie tugged Keith's sleeve. Did I do good, Dad? The word, Dad, still landed like grace. 6 months into fostering, the adoption papers pending like a held breath. Keith ruffled his curls. You slayed, kiddo. Sketch that for the wall. Jamie beamed, scampering to Maria's Volvo. We lingered, hands linked, the victory bittersweet. One more brick, I murmured, kissing his temple. Our empire's solid, empire. From merger ruins to this mosaic of mandates and milestones. Homeward, Highway 80 snaking through hills golden with summer's end. Keith cranked the radio, indigo girls wailing closer to fine, our anthem from road trips past. Jamie sang off-key, window down, wind a wild chorus. Dinner was chaos. Spaghetti wars, sauce splattering like Pollock, laughter loud as the fights we'd forged through. Bedtime stories layered, the giving tree for Jamie, whispered case reviews for us, bodies curling like commas in the dark. Love you, he mumbled, half asleep, hand on my chest. Love you more, I echoed, the ritual rooting us. But roots twist. Dawn brought crisis. Elena's call at 5 a.m., voice-edged panic. Seth, the Valley case, plaintiffs dropping bombs. Claims we buried evidence. Buried. The word clawed old wounds. Marcus's ghost grinning. The AI bias suit, our crown jewel, now cracking under scrutiny. A whistleblower alleging Reyes, strong-armed silence for the settlement. Bullshit, Keith growled over coffee, scrolling the complaint on his tablet. We vetted everything. Vetted. My specialty, the surgical sweep. But doubt slithered. Had I missed a memo in the merger haze? A habit bleeding over? We dove in. War room, our dining nook. Files fanned like cards. Jamie at camp oblivious. Keith paced, fueling on black coffee. I dissected clauses, red pen slashing ghosts. It's sabotage, he concluded. Ice fierce. Someone from the old firm. Stirring shit. Old firm. Manhattan's specter. Ever hungry. We prepped counters. Affidavits armoring truth. But the hearing loomed like stormfront. Media sniffing scandal redux. The deposition suite in the financial district was sterile as a scalpel. Glass walls framing ferries on the bay. The whistleblower, a wiry coder named Tyler with sleeve tattoos and shifty eyes, fidgeted under fluorescence. Reyes paid me off, he claimed, voice tinny on record. Told me to zip it or zip out. Keith leaned in, calm as bayou. Paid or compensated for emotional distress? Per the NDA, Tyler blinked, sweat beading. I slid exhibits, sign docs, timestamps clean. Sign here if you're perjuring, Tyler. Or recant. He folded, confession spilling. Bribed by a rival firm, jealous of our streak. They said it'd tank you, relief washed, but residue lingered, trust's thin skin nicked. That night, Jamie's soccer game under floodlights, we cheered from bleachers, his goal a blur of green jersey. Post-game, ice cream sticky sweet, he piped, you guys fight bad guys like superheroes? Keith winked. Every day, champ, superheroes. Flawed capes, but flying. Fall foliage fired the Sierras. Our annual escape. Cabin in Tahoe. Pines whispering secrets. Jamie built forts from fallen needles. We hiked Emerald Bay. Viking ship replica ghostly on waters blue as Keith's faded jeans. Evenings by the fire, Esmore's melting, stories spun, Jamie's imaginings of space adventures, hours of court conquests sanitized sweet. One night, stars pricking velvet sky, Keith pulled me to the dock, boots crunching frost. 10 years since the bridge, he said, breath clouding. 10. A decade's delta, from fracture to this fullness. He knelt, not dramatic, just him, producing a velvet box, matching pendants, compass roses in silver, inked vows miniaturized. For the north we found, tears blurred constellations. I fastened his, lips meeting soft. Eternal north, lovemaking in the loft, slow as sap, bodies him to healing. Back in the fray, the countersuit settled, rival firm find, our rep burnished brighter. Holiday lights strung Castro streets, Jamie's eyes wide at the tree in Union Square, ornaments orbiting like planets. Christmas morning, paper carnage, bikes for him, leather-bound journals for us, blank pages for unwritten wins. New Year's, countdown with neighbors, fireworks blooming over the bay, Keith's kiss tasting of champagne and tomorrow. Winter waned to wildflowers. Spring's surge. Jamie's adoption finalized in a chamber flowery with roses. Judge tearing up as we signed. Family, she declared, gavel gentle. Jamie hugged fierce. Official now? Keith laughed, tears tracking. Official forever, but forever flexes. Summer scorched, wildfires licking horizons, air acrid as anxiety. A client crisis. Non-binary artist sued for indecent murals in a school. Queerness the unspoken charge. We rallied, Keith sketching arguments like his briefs, me marshalling precedents. Trial in a stuffy civic hall. Jury diverse but doubtful. Keith's closing scorched. Art isn't threat, it's mirror. Shatter it, and you blind the beauty in difference. Verdict. Acquittal. Cheers crashing like waves. Post-trial. Gallery opening. Murals restored. Champagne flowing. Jamie, 12 now, critiqued with tween snark. Cool colors. Dad. Pride swelled. Keith's arm around us both. Our critics tough, yet embers smoldered. Anonymous postcard arrived. Your happy ending's a lie. Dig deeper. Dig. Paranoia prickled. We hired the PI again. Unearthing a mole in our firm, junior associate. Ghost of Manhattan grudges. Leaking to tabloids for clicks. Confrontation in the conference room. Her tears theatrical. I needed the story. You're famous. Famous. Curse of candor. Fired. But fallout festered. Client jitters. Internal audits. Keith shouldered it. Nights sleepless. We're clean, he'd insist. But circles darkened his eyes. I pulled strings. Old allies vouching. But the strain showed in snapped words over dinner. Silence as thick as smoke. Labor Day weekend. Escape to Mendocino coast. Cliffs crumbling to sea. Jamie bodyboarding waves. Bonfire crackled. Marshmallows charring. Stories circled. Jamie's school dramas. Our war stories softened. Keith stared at flames. Distant. Seth. What if it's not enough? The question hung. Enough. The eternal queer query. I drew him close. Jamie asleep intent. It is. Because it's us. His sigh surrendered. Head on my shoulder. Fireflies winking assent. Fall rallied resolve. Firm retreat in wine country. Team building amid vines. Trust falls literal. Metaphors mended. Back. We purged, backgrounds vetted. NDAs ironclad. Clients steadied. Podcast peaking with Obama guest spot. His baritone blessing our bent. Thanksgiving. Table groaning. Maria's tamales. Elena's pie. Jamie's turkey carved crooked. Toasts to gratitude. Keith's eyes on mine across chaos. To North's reclaimed. Reclaimed. Yes. Winter solstice. Solstice moon full. We renewed under it, naked in hot tub. Steam rising like prayers. Vows voiced to void. Through fire. Flood. The fights we fuel. Skin to skin. Eternal. Spring's renewal. Jamie's bar mitzvah. Hybrid rite. Blending Keith's Jewish roots with my agnostic awe. Synagogue alive with song. Community cradling. His speech. Halting then bold. My dad's taught me. Loves the law. Tears collective. Pride parental. Summer crested. Case cascade. Pro bono pipeline bursting. Queer vets benefits battled. Exhaustion edged. But joy juiced it. Jamie's first crush. Awkward and sweet. Our counsel cryptic. Anniversary eve. Bridge replica in our park, steel span over duck pond, we walked it. Rain reminiscing. From death, Keith echoed. Hand in mine. To dynasty, dynasty. Our legacy, living. Years accreted, Jamie to college. Empty nest echoing. But travels filled, Paris protests. Tokyo tech talks. Love lettering landscapes. The firm federated. Chapters coast to coast. Our story spine. On the true 10th. Brooklyn Bridge proper. Tourists thinning. We stood midspan. City symphony swelling. I told the world I didn't need you. I confessed. Wind whipping. Keith smiled. Arm linking. But you did. And I needed this, us. Undead. Undead. Love's resurrection. Eternal. The lecture hall at Stanford smelled of fresh chalk and ambition. Tiered seats filled with wide-eyed JDs scribbling notes as Keith paced the podium. Laser pointer dancing like fireflies on his slides. Law isn't ledger, he boomed. Voice gravelly from disuse. We'd been road tripping the Southwest. Jamie's freshman year at Caltech a fresh wound. It's Lifeline. Remember Harlan v. Hale? Not just a merger mess, but a mirror. Who do you serve when the spotlight scorches? Eyes flicked to me in the front row. Guest lecturer badge pinned ironic. I nodded, the scar on my jaw itching under the irony. 15 years since the gavel that gutted us, and here we were. Syllabus staples. Q&A ignited. A butch student with blue hair probed. How'd you rebuild trust post-betrayal? Keith's laugh rumbled. Genuine. Therapy. Tequila. And 10,000 tiny choices. Seth. He tossed it. Spotlit. I rose, heart steady as his gaze. By owning the fracture. Apology isn't absolution. It's architecture. Building better on broken ground. Applause rippled. Post-class. A cluster lingered. Cards exchanged for internships at Reyes. Legacy. From tabloid trash to this, mentors molding minds. Drive home wound through Palo Alto's manicured maze. Golden hour gilding gates. You killed it, I said. Hand on his thigh. Radio humming Lucinda Williams. He smirked, covering my fingers. We killed it. Teamwork, teamwork. The glue of our golden age. Firm at 50 attorneys. Podcasts potting parliaments. Foster to family pipeline placing dozens. Jamie called mid-commute. Voice crackling from Pasadena. Dads, aced quantum. Dinner next weekend. Pride parental. Pang parental. Slay. Kid. Love you. Clicks ended. Silence soft. Dinner was fusion. Ethiopian injera steaming. Tej honeyed. Candles flickering on our deck overlooking the bay's bridge-lit ballet. Keith raised glass. Eyes amber in glow. To empty nests and full hearts. Full. 15 years layered love like lacquer. Polished. Profound. We reminisced. The bridge brawls bruises faded. Marcus's minions muzzled. Our countersuits canon in con law texts. Remember the postcard phantom? He chuckled. Fork spearing Doro what? Turned out to be that clerk's catfishing side hustle. Laughter liberated. Ghosts gossamer. Bedward. Bodies familiar as breath. His touch traced tattoos time-tempered. Still north? He murmured. Lips on my collarbone. Always, I gasped, arching into anchor. After, tangled, he confessed quiet, thinking legacy. Beyond cases, legacy. The word waited, post-Jamie launch. Teach, right? Suggestions soft, but his sigh stirred sheets. Something bigger. Foundation, maybe for queer kids in the cracks. Cracks. Where we'd crawled from. Yes, I whispered. Vision vicarious. We'll build it. Dawn brewed ambition. Sketches over scones. Keith's handwriting hasty hieroglyphs, scholarships, shelters, story slams. I crunched numbers. Old shark surfacing. Endowments. Events. Elena enlisted as exec. Rhea's roots, he named it. Grin galvanic. From our roots to theirs. Roots. Radiating. Launch loomed laborious. Galas fundraised. Grants grinded. Media swarmed, Cron profile. The lawyers who loved through litigation. Jamie keynote. Tyascu. Anecdotes aching. Dad's fights taught me, fall, fix, fly. Tears tracked, donors deluged. But tempests tease. Fall foliage framed a flare. Anonymous audit from IRS. Probing Reyes pro bono as tax dodge. Dodge. Echo of embezzle claims. Venom vintage. We lawyered up. Irony ironclad. Unearthing the auditor's bias. Exhale higher with homophobic blog breadcrumbs. Complaint crushed it. But stress streaked. Keith's migraines mounting. My insomnia itching. Winter whispered wellness. Sabbatical south. Mexico's Yucatan. Cenote's cerulean. Ruins resonant. Cenote dips dissolve doubts. Keith's laughter echoing caves. This, he said. Floating. Hand-laced. Recharge. Recharge. We did yoga on beaches. Books unbound. Bodies basking. Back. Foundation flowered. First cohort. 10 teens from foster fringes. Workshops weaving words and worth. Jamie mentored. Quantum quips, quantum leaping their dreams. Opening night. Fire pit fringed. Stories spilled. Survival stark. Hopes holographic. Keith emceed. Voice velvet. Your roots run deep. Grow wild. Wild. Like us. Once. Spring surged success. Foundation funded full. Firm franchised further. But Jamie's call cracked calm. Dating someone. Serious. Serious. Parental pivot. Pride pierced with protect. Bring him home, Keith urged. Post-call grin grandfatherly. Homecoming weekend. Caltech kid. Alexei. Russian emigre. Eyes like taiga charmed over Coco Vin. Your dads are legends, he told Jamie. blushing. Legends. We eavesdropped, hearts hoarding. Summer solstice. Solstice sun sovereign. We sailed the bay. Catamaran cutting waves. Wind whipping worries. Jamie helmed. Alexei at tiller. We lounged. Prosecco popping. To horizons, Keith toasted. Spray salting. Horizons. Holding hands. Hull humming. Yet undercurrents churn. Fall fraud. Foundation donor exposed. Ponzi puppeteer. Funds filthy. Scandal splashed. Headlines harrying. Queer heroes hoodwinked? Hoodwinked. Humiliation hot. We pivoted. PR parsing. Repayments ruthless, my ledger's laser. Keith consoled cohort. Scams don't define. Strength does. Strength. His stealing us. Thanksgiving thawed. Jamie's table. Alexei's bleeny blending. Gratitude gushed. Ghosts gossiped away. Winter's white. Roots retreat in Tahoe. Teens trailblazing snowshoes. Keith skied. Jamie snowboarding. I shoveled stories by fire. One eve. Aurora faint. He pulled me porchward. Proud. Stars answered. Immensely. Spring spark. Jamie's proposal. Ring rainbow etched. Alexei's yes yelled. Wedding whirlwind. We orchestrated. Napa nuptials. Vows vivid. Fatherly toasts tiered. Love like yours? Lightning. Strike true. Summer's symphony. Ceremony under oaks. Jamie beaming. Alexei bashful. Dances delirious. Dad's twirling teens turned adults. Anniversary autumn. Actual 20th bridge. New York nip. Cables cold clasped. From Didn't Need. I quoted title true. To Can't Without. Keith's kiss kindled. Eternal need. Decades deepened. Grandkids giggling. Foundation flourishing. Global grants. Galaxies of grantees. Firm federated worldwide. Our tale textbook. Final frame. Sunset span. Brooklyn's breath. Hands hoary but holding. Loved you to death, Keith whispered. Wind-wise. And back to life. Life. Luminous. Lasting. Our story. Sung.